Kat, are you on?
This is Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay. I'm having so many Teams issues. It's driving me insane.
Technical issues on a PROSAB meeting? Unheard of.
It's just, I know. It's like, I don't know why Town doesn't make this slightly easier. Like, my work computer is blocking.
Okay. Oops, sorry. I'm still in here. Do we have them? Like, I know Kat is there in person. Let me text her and see. And I know everyone else is running behind because it is snowing.
Yeah.
But we do not have a quorum to get started. So Lindsay, are you this 7-9 number? The one that ends in
Maybe.
7-9?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's me.
Thanks. Cool. It just, it doesn't say your name.
Gotcha. Yeah, I called him from my phone.
Okay, Kat says there's 4 of them in the community center, so in order for us to get started, they need to get on.
Okay. Are they having issues logging on?
Unclear. Thanks everyone for your patience. We're just waiting until we have a quorum. For those who aren't in Netherlands, it's snowing, so I think everything's kind of a little haywire because it just started in the past hour or so. Hi, Kat. You're muted.
Yeah.
Same link ever?
I think we're all just logging on
I
to
just have
Teams
two.
because we don't really know what else.
I have like 2 calendar invites.
Yeah.
for
I'm gonna reach
Teams
out.
and-
I'm sending an email to John now because I don't think we should be expected to be our own IT department and set up the owl because that's not how it used to work. But
I don't know who's gonna be on it.
Do you guys just want to crowd around like one computer, like, and not deal with the owl? Like, it's just.
But is what records the, oh wait, never mind. It looks like it's gonna record.
it claims it's recording, yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was concerned about.
No,
I'm not
I think
concerned
you're-
about the owl.
I think you're good for recording. Yeah, do you guys, we can maybe crowd around these two and keep one on mute?
Feel free to.
Yeah,
Come
come
I
snuggle.
have to take notes, so I would say maybe.
Oh yeah, crowd around mine. You're all good. I just
But here, I
cleaned,
can.
I just cleaned the screen, so it's lovely. Okay, we're getting. Oh wait, I have a
Take your time.
background. Hang on, I had to take the background off so we can actually see other humans.
The humans will come through the background.
Background
It's meant to
effects.
detect humans.
Sorry, I like literally never use Teams.
Yeah, it's today.
Oh. That's you. That's you. All right. Here, we can even do this. That's- There we go. Does that
You
work?
are so clever.
Oh, you know. Have you seen our moose friends that have been living in our yards for the last few days?
No.
There's a mama and a baby hanging in my leach field. They're so cute. I'll show you guys. So I think we're pretty much all.
Oh no, and now we lost them because that.
Since she's taking
Wi-Fi.
notes. Look at the baby.
Okay, you just cut
Okay, what
out,
is
but
mommy?
hopefully it sticks.
You can hold up a bunch.
Of course. Yeah, sorry. That's all
Hey,
as
Kat,
much as I can.
Yeah, I might drop off for just a second. I have a little signal dead spot, but then I'll be on Wi-Fi in like 5.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Okay. I think we have a quorum, right? I can't even see everyone who's in the frame, but cool.
We have Kat,
Um,
Casey, CT, Sam, and Caroline. Caroline or
Okay.
Caroline?
Fine.
And then we also have James Navratil, sorry, I
James, how you
butchered
doing?
that. Jim from Big Springs here
Jim.
as a member of the community.
Great. Hi, Jim. And thanks to folks on the line as well. Thanks for bearing with us. When we have to be our own IT department, it never goes well because I don't think that's why anyone joins PROSAB because they're that tech savvy. So thanks for your patience as we wait for everyone to get on. I'll just do the roll call quickly. I know Kat just did it, but just for the record, I'll start with Luke since he might drop off. Luke? Maybe not.
I am here.
Thanks. Lindsay?
Here.
Casey?
Here.
Kat?
Here.
Caroline?
Here.
Sam?
Here.
CT?
Here.
Did I miss anyone? Good?
Sure, what?
Okay,
Here,
cool.
There you
Yeah, here. And also, I don't need to be like right.
go.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Much better. My head is very large. Sorry, we're just rearranging a tiny bit. Okay, sorry.
No, you guys are fine. Feel like you're on a game show or something.
Family Feud.
Yeah. Okay. And Casey sent out the minutes from our January meeting. Is there any clarifications, edits, motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Thank you. Do the same order, Luke.
Yeah.
Casey,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Kat,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Caroline,
Yes.
CT,
Yes.
Alex, yes. I realized I didn't roll call myself here. Great. Moving next on the agenda, and I did add just in the past, like this is another reason why I didn't drive. I was adding some links to the agenda in the past couple minutes. Oh, and I should have said at the top, Nikki has a family emergency. She has a family member in the hospital. I told her we're all thinking of her, but she is driving there and cannot be here, obviously. So, that's where she is. Public comment on non-agenda items. We did not receive any written public comment on anything, but if anyone in the room or on the line has public comment, and just a reminder, a 3-minute limit on that. Josh, welcome.
This is Casey. I think we actually did
Yeah.
receive 2 emails about the pump track from Adam.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
from Greenside,
that was
so I
like a
thought we
sales.
could think about that.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Josh, that was like a sales pitch. I mean, if you ever see something missing from the agenda, please let me know, because I do try to look through my emails for what we've received, but that was a sales pitch, kind of, and Sam responded to it.
They
I
just
didn't
sold.
reply.
Yeah,
And they
Yeah.
were like.
it was a very well-written sales pitch.
And I responded,
Yeah.
I think, let them know that if it made sense, we'd reach back out.
Yeah,
And then we already built one as a community.
thanks, Sam. Good.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, go for it.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
You're good.
Oops, that sounded like echo. Okay, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
You might want to, it's a little hard to hear because we're all just on one computer here. If you wouldn't mind just like talking louder than you think you should.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was talking pretty loud. Let me get my headset on. Can you hear this better? I
Sorry,
can
it's good for
Yeah,
those
yeah.
of us online, but I guess,
shove my
yeah.
face right up against the computer. Otherwise I can get my headset, but I don't want to take up any more time. But anyway, yeah, so I'm new to these meetings. So I'm still learning about PROSAB, but my concerns are in regards to what is known as fuel reduction on public lands. So I'm not sure what say PROSAB has over Boulder County lands, if this is just something that has say over Nederland. But there is at least Tucker Ranch. I know that the town is considering doing some fuel reduction. And I would just ask to consider the full body of science, a lot of which does suggest that such treatments are not effective and actually can be counterproductive in terms of heating up the forest microclimate, drying it out, opening it up to winds. We all know that winds are what spreads the wildfire. So then you open up these forest stands and it can actually move the fires quicker to communities, which can overwhelm the ability to evacuate, can also overwhelm firefighters. This is typically left out of the discussion in these sorts of arenas, and the agency science, much of which is not peer reviewed, is what's considered consensus, but it's not consensus. So I would just ask for more of that to be incorporated. I can provide you with literally hundreds of studies on that, and also just listening to public input, because a lot of people are really upset with the cutting that has been going on all around the area, and a lot of people have not felt consulted. And there are other values besides wildfire, of course. And a lot of people just feel like they moved up here for a particular reason, and yet their backyards are being cut without even being sort of consulted in the process. So anyway, that's the spiel. I'd love to be more engaged with that. I'd love to have more, provide more information into the public record for more of a discussion rather than just assuming it's a foregone conclusion. Let's just cut the trees down and we'll protect everyone. A lot of the science suggests quite the opposite. That's it.
Thank you, Josh.
Sure, thank you.
Does anyone want to?
I'd say we welcome the resources that you found, and please send them to us.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, Josh, just to answer your question at the beginning, so we don't have any say over lands that aren't owned by the town of Nederland. I mean, in like a legal or formal way. I think that like Boulder County and the Forest Service like should and could listen to like, you know, the Board of Trustees and PROSAB and such like in like a advocacy kind of way, but like legally, the jurisdiction that we have any influence over as an advisory board is anything owned by the town of Nederland. So just to like, that doesn't mean that like we shouldn't be thinking about like the broader picture because it's all very interconnected for sure. But just to answer that question like specifically. So
I would also add that I think for the work that we do with volunteers, it's primarily clearing out dead brush and dead trees that are more flammable. And so for kind of our direct PROSAB involvement, it's not as much just, you know, clear cutting or anything. So I'm not sure specifically what you're referring to, but if you want to send us some specific examples as well, I think that'd be helpful.
yeah, and then also I know this was a non-agenda comment, but we do actually have the Boulder Watershed Collective on the agenda later, I believe, talking specifically about soliciting
Yes.
public input on fire mitigation strategies. So totally don't want to like tell you to stay on for the whole call, but somebody just log on or something. But if you can, that would be amazing because I think they're actually probably the best people for you to be in contact with since they are the organization that's been shepherding the Community Wildfire Protection Plan that does actually engage like all of those different entities that you mentioned at the beginning. So it'd be super great if you're able to.
I've been in touch with them. I was more interested in being in touch with PROSAB right now. So, but thank you for that. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, but more at PROSAB at Netherland at netherlandco.org. If you want to send us anything else, Josh, and thank you for your engagement.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're always welcome to join. Okay. Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
Did you have any?
Hearing none.
It's joining to, yeah.
Yeah, I can't see the rest of the room. If John is there, do you guys want to take 5 and put the owl up? Is that gonna like throw everyone off?
No, absolutely. I apologize, guys. I thought your meeting was later and I
Oh, okay.
twisted in my head.
That's okay.
Okay.
Luke, are you at
Thank
Eldora
you.
again?
He's got his kids.
I love it. Just making us all jealous.
Yeah, it's ski racing time, so you know
It's right over there. We'll
But yeah, for the people on the line, John nodded and said yes. And so he's gonna set up the
Thank
owl
you.
real quick. So just
Okay, we'll just hang
Hang tight.
tight. Thanks everyone for your patience.
while they're doing that, Josh, I know Alex gave you the PROSAB email, but yeah, if you have any specific examples of projects that are going forward that we should know about, that would be super helpful to know. If you wouldn't mind sending to PROSAB at netherlandco.org.
ORG. Yeah,
Org.
it feels like it should be gov, but who knows?
well,
I
and
know.
we have a gov coming. Peter just got us registered at netherlandco.gov. So
Oh, dang.
Look at us.
Look at all
I
grown
don't
up.
know. I don't know when that will like trickle down to our email addresses, but it's on.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared what that will do for the email delivery that's already shaky as it is. So
Right.
we're not ready for a new domain.
That's right.
So wait, should I put mine on mute because you're putting that on?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm going on mute. This computer is going on mute now.
Yeah, we'll wait for you.
Online folks, can you hear us?
Yes,
All right, I'll turn my,
Sorry,
there is
that
a
was my
little
bad.
echo.
You're good now.
okay, give us 1 second.
Take your time.
We're having fun. Oh, what is this? So did Nikki tell you about the baby?
Hmm?
No.
Well, yeah,
Nikki's having a baby?
I didn't know how much she wanted to share, so I was anxious.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, we see you, John. I don't think we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anybody has $50,000 I could make this room work better. Yeah. Okay, could you guys talk one more time online if you could?
Can you hear us? Check, check.
Yes.
All right, we're working.
Cool. Okay, we will go just slowly zooming in on Sam. Okay, we'll continue on. Informational items. Obviously, Nikki's not here to provide her staff report. I did just add a link to the written staff report from the bot meeting earlier this week. It was pretty light this month, but if anyone has any comment on anything in there, and hopefully you didn't have any burning questions for Nikki. But we'll
I mean,
just jump.
if you guys have anything, or
well,
if there's any questions, what's up going on?
you're next in the hot seat, John. So I think there are a few topics we wanted either follow up from last meeting or clarification, but I put like names next to kind of who requested it. So, and then if there's other questions from folks, we can go from there. But John, if you want to start, if you want to provide an update on anything specific before we jump into the questions, go for it.
I think it's been a busy week around Nederland parts. You all, I think, know Joe Nagus was here on, when was that? Yesterday or the day before? Tuesday. Yep, and it was standing room only in the theater. The majority of his comments were about what's happening at the federal level, but our district is particularly affected by that because of the national laboratories here and the national forest spaces and all of that. And so a lot of the questions were around engagement and like how people can be involved and support the community and that kind of thing. And so I think what I'd tell you is we have some connections to his staff and things he's doing. There's a lot of work going around grants and making sure that money that is committed to places still comes. One project that is for us relevant is the Big Springs Egress project, and we haven't been reimbursed by the federal government in 3 months. So they owe us a significant amount of money at the moment. I think it's going to be fine. I think it's all working out because that money was already appropriated and everything. So I think ultimately it's not going to be a huge issue. Other things going on, the Board of Trustees had their meeting on Tuesday. We have been, I don't think there's really anything really crazy going on in that space right now. We had one of the high school kids is going to the DECA conference. That was kind of a thing. This town gave her a scholarship to go, which is really cool. DECA is like a business conference for high school kids, and they do a bunch of different things. So she's going to the one in Colorado Springs, and she's worked for the town for, I want to say 3 summers at the visitor center. So it was a really good thing. We are working right now. There was actually a couple of big things at the board meeting. One was there's a water model that is happening and a GIS. We have a GIS update on what we're doing in that space. And we have been mapping all of our utilities, and then they've been using that to create water models, which I think there's some PROSAB links there. We're going to be doing some design work to start putting in new hydrants and upsizing pipes Some of that's for fire flow, just to make sure we have right fire flow everywhere. The community center does not have a hydrant that's easily accessible because the hydrant for here is like halfway up the path. And it's not an easy place if the building is burning to just get to.
That seems problematic.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to fix that, fix some of these pipes, and then over time, there's a couple like repairs from, if you remember the floods, some of our sewer pipe got damaged, and so we're gonna try to repair it because that'll help make our plants last longer and things like that. That was really the big thing. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to share. The board also reaffirms their commitment to the Paris Climate Accord, which the United States is no longer party to, but in 2017, the board had passed a resolution for that, and so they did the same on Tuesday.
Uh-oh. We lose them again.
Yeah.
Kat, you look fine. It's just John.
I
who's
know.
frozen.
It's the owl. Yeah.
Hmm.
We're trying to figure out what's going on with y'all.
Thank you.
Oop. John, you're still muted, but looks like you're back.
Hello. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we can. Woohoo.
I forget what you were saying right before we lost you, though. Oh, the Paris Climate Accords, I think.
Yeah.
One was one of the last things.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the board. They just passed that resolution just to support the Paris Climate Accords. And then we're getting a new website. And I think the cool thing for PROSAB is that the new website will actually allow you to modify it. So we could build a more PROSAB-centric landing page, which I think would be cool. And it's got more tools, like it has volunteer management tools, which is important, and like some other things that are really cool about how it.
Oh, no.
So sad.
I know.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Reaction. Let's try this. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe that's just the better.
Okay, so on our end, it was really funny because I was saying how the website is ADA accessible, and then Alex was like, "Oh no, that's really sad," and then we didn't know that we had dropped, but. So
I don't think that for the record. I think accessibility is great.
anyway, you guys are going to be able to, if you want to control your landing page and actually do stuff with it, it's going to actually be humanly possible. So that'll be good.
Right on.
And then the last thing was just that. Sorry.
I was going to say, I also told them that Peter got us the .gov domain name, which was a question somebody asked right as we were starting the meeting about our email addresses.
Right, and that's going to be super cool because we get a lot more flexibility for a lot of things with that. One other thing I'll tell you, Peter is resigning from the town, so he's moving. They're going to move to New York. He's very excited, and so we'll probably have a shindig to celebrate the life of Peter in Nederland. which he's our engagement person and website person.
He's awesome. He's done an amazing job. Like,
Up in Ithaca, I think the Girl Scout camp up there, that's where his wife is gonna run the Girl Scout camp up there.
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful place, but
My mom went to Cornell, so we spent some time.
so we're gonna be looking at our staffing a little bit and figuring that out over the next couple of weeks about what we'll do. But I think I really want to make sure that person is, integrating with you all and helping to make sure that we're spreading messages as we should and all that kind of thing. So
Peter did a really great job and is continuing to at the moment.
yeah, he definitely loves Nederland for sure. So I think, like I said, I'd like to have a little going away party for them when I'm not 100% sure they know when they're leaving yet, but.
Cool. Keep us posted.
Okay.
John, one other thing from the BOT meeting that I wanted to share with these guys was the ArcGIS stuff that Lindsay is doing. And so they have this whole new, implementation of all the town ArcGIS mapping. And I don't know if anybody in this group is familiar with Esri, but it's like a really adaptable mapping platform. And there's definitely a lot of opportunity for us to utilize that for parks. Everything from, weed pulls to, trail work to, there's just a ton of stuff. So should be a really cool thing for us to explore. But it would sort of take somebody from PROSAB who has a desire to learn about Esri and GIS and stuff to build out a dashboard. So Andrew Bliss has done it for water and utilities, and there's like all the hydrants and all the water lines and all that stuff is all in there. So it's potentially super cool, but it would sort of take somebody to like grab the flag and decide they want to do it.
Yeah, I think that we're getting to the point where we're going to have more licenses, which is really helpful. And once we do, that work can continue. All the basically utilities are mapped, and then a lot of the planning is mapped. And then the next step will be putting in like the multimodal plan and all these different assets that we're going to be having over the next few months. So if somebody is interested in doing that work and helping with that on the PROSAB side, we're happy to figure out what that looks like. And I think a trails map would be pretty cool to start generating, and that's a complicated one for us though, because there's a lot. There's just a lot of things to look at. So, but yeah, that's a pretty awesome project.
So if someone is interested, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Lindsay. I'm interested.
Cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Lindsay, this is Lindsay. I'm interested, but what does that entail? Like, what kind of like technical skills does that entail?
Lindsay is very technical. She's like a GIS guru. So basically it would be looking at our maps and making sure like trails are where they're supposed to be, and like making sure the assets, there's some like things you can do like on your phone too. Like you can go out and like walk a trail and it will plot it basically, and then you can work with her. But it's really, I think what we would do is have a meeting with her first and just kind of look at what it would look like, and then figure it out from there.
Okay. That's something I'm interested in.
Thanks, Lindsay.
I could potentially see, that was basically giving me my question, Lindsay, like what should someone do if they do want to learn more? And it sounds like reach out to Luke and John to get connected, but I could see maybe, I don't know what the timing of all this is, but some PROST potential being able to leverage some of this work in PROST if the timing lines up, which Caroline is going to provide an update on some of our PROST progress in a little while. So if Lindsay, you do get, if you do move forward with getting involved with it, please keep us in the loop on the PROST side to see if it makes sense to collaborate on that end.
Okay, so I'll reach out to Luke and John after this.
Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Okay.
Anything else, John, before we dive into specific
No
topics?
questions?
Okay.
If I missed something, also feel free to ask me other questions too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
questions about what John just shared or anything on the agenda that folks had wanted to clarify. The floor is yours.
So what is the current outstanding balance of those big spending loans? For the town?
About 100,000 right now. Get it? It's like a request reimbursement process. Pause when the executive order came out, and then it's just been a little slow coming. But we talked to Jonah Goose about it, and it sounds like it's coming. So we're not in trouble or anything. It's just a matter of we just want to make sure that the other thing is just getting it, keeping it moving, so and with as little disruption as possible. But
Gotcha.
you guys have other unscheduled questions? Good answer. I could go through the ones on the list too if you guys want me to do that.
Yeah, I think unless anyone else has anything.
Whatever,
Okay.
yeah, if folks. Oh, go ahead.
Volunteer or program update. We're not much different. CIRSA, our insurance provider, they view volunteers the way that you use them as employees, and that has been difficult. So we are working through it. I have got it figured out. Like I told you guys, on the volunteer driver program we're starting. The problem is like the liability of chainsaws is like a thing. And so I know that that's not like necessarily all these volunteers are going to be doing, but I do think we'll have an answer for you. I know I keep saying that, but I really think we're like getting to the point where we're going to be able to do it and get it right. There may be needing to be a process that is maybe more onerous than we really would like, but it could be that if you're, doing something like picking noxious weeds, it's different than if you're cutting wood in a fire ban kind of situation or something. So we just have to prepare for all of those things legally. But I think CIRSA understands now. That was like the hardest part, is getting them to understand what we're doing. Now they understand. So now it's just about figuring out how to make our coverage work. And Christy Ruman, I don't know if you all know her. She's one of our finance people, but she's been really doing a good job working with CIRSA. And I honestly think we're in the home stretch there. Do you guys have any questions about that? I can tell you also one thing. I don't have to wait till your next meeting. As soon as it's a go, I can make it a go. Revisiting Jesse Seaver's in-kind donation. I think right now I'm not comfortable answering that question for you because Jesse and I are having conversations about
Like the detail.
yeah, and a contract and things like that. So we are working on it, if that's enough for me to say right now. And then maybe
fine.
he could come and we could do it together, just so
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't
if y'all,
put him in a weird
if y'all are working together,
Yeah.
on it, then until you have an actual.
Yeah, we're gonna do what's called a
We don't
master
need-
service
yeah.
agreement. Yeah, so there's basically what you should know is we
Yeah.
found out how to do it. And I just don't want to put any words in his mouth, like
Sure.
first, like
Yeah,
just based on
we
stuff,
want
but
you to.
maybe at our next meeting, if we've got it like all kind of squared away, he could come to and we could talk together. Wingate property update. What?
Oh, yeah, on that, I just want to know where it actually stands, and as a board, can we start making recommendations
About you?
about use?
Yes, I
Or
think,
voting on recommendations?
well, do you guys have all the legal controlling documents for what use is allowed on the property in terms of the easements and restrictions?
No, so getting those details, so
Okay.
then we can then start just as an advisory board, making advisory.
Yeah, that property is a little bit complicated
Yeah.
legally because it's a lot of,
And that's what we just don't
Yeah.
understand.
I understand what you're asking for,
Yeah.
and I think I can help with that. We've been doing a review of all town-owned properties.
Yeah,
And that took a long time because some of these restrictions are not what you would call like legally structured. But they're just like important because they're community promises, basically.
Gotcha.
So we've been trying to work through that and make sure we have a good understanding. Last night, the planning commission had a work session, and the new comprehensive plan, they're basically in consensus on, and we have been working on that thing for forever.
Yeah.
It's been through 4 revisions, and the maps were really hard because property is hard because, like, Nederland, there's distinctions that aren't necessarily true in other places, because like if you say public land, that has a different connotation than if you say open space or vacant, like there's a lot of things that are important for what we do here in Nederland. But I think the maps are largely complete. They are meeting on the 26th. They're having a hearing for the comprehensive plan.
Oh, cool.
I would love you guys, if you are able to attend. If you'd like to review the plan, I can make sure you guys have that. We have like a final draft version, and on Friday we should have like hopefully to be passed version of that comp plan. And there are,
What's the timing on that actually comp plan?
what do you mean for the adoption?
The meeting of it.
Yeah, I think it's at 6.
Okay, I can check. I'm sure it's on the
Yeah,
calendar.
I'm pretty sure it's at 6, but it might be at 7.
Is it here?
Yeah, and I can send out the link for you guys.
Sweet.
So that'll be a good thing. And then the board will approve that by resolution. There is, I think you guys were engaged in that process a little bit. Or no?
Not the.
Yes.
Right, well,
Yeah, the comp plan, I mean, I provided feedback. The comp plan was circulated to the board for feedback months and months ago and then sent out again. I mean, I have it on the agenda, sent out again since our last meeting.
okay. The big thing I think that's Prost related is like the Flume map, which is the future land use map. And they had just a bear of a time understanding like these properties, but I think, and Luke, since you've seen it, it's been cleaned up quite a bit. Like we've got I'm not 100% sure it can ever be 100% perfect, but it's pretty good. Like I think the
Right.
really important ones are there. And if there's one, we can always change it. Like it can, so I think this will be really useful for you guys when you do this too. Because like it'll help, start thinking about properties and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the attorney is done with the review of the land.
Oh.
So we should be able to come to the board with this is what every property does and what's, what restrictions are on it, and then start looking at what next thing.
Potential. Yeah.
I know Nikki, did she do a walkthrough with you guys on Wingate last fall? Because we were talking about that. It might have snowed too soon.
No, it never got scheduled.
Here, like 2 years ago or something, we went up to and looked at it as like when we were reviewing all the potential sites for bike stuff at the very beginning of that pump track process, but that was like didn't make obviously sense for a pump track at the time because it's like steep.
It's like a downhill place.
Yeah, it'd be like if anything, it'd be like a downhill,
like a flowy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think maybe we could do that in the spring.
Cool.
The other thing that we've been working on, and Luke and I are kind of tag teaming the engagement, but one of the things we'd like to do is really be thinking about that rink link trail. And we need to talk to the neighborhood about that a little bit and then walk the flag line and make sure, we're doing it right for the neighbors and all that kind of thing. So we're hoping to kind of start re-engaging everyone on that project too. That would be, something that we can maybe do, we have to wait till it dries out enough to build a trail, but that's something we've completed the legal review for that as well. So I think I talked fast. I don't know if there's other questions you have, but I'm happy to answer.
No, that's it. My only intention is to understand with the Wingate, are we at the point where as a board, we can like discuss it and then potentially vote on like recommendations from our perspective for use based on what it actually is available for?
I would just say.
That's all.
In regards to work on the volunteer program, really appreciate how seriously the town is taking getting that on board, because the amount of work that we had to do for the recent layoffs in the forestry service was enormous, and now the task before us is
It's more. I get you.
truly daunting.
It's
Truly.
kind of funny because it all came about because we we're just trying to set up an email. And it like was give a mouse a cookie, like honestly, like, in government land, that's what it was. But I think we've got it figured out and I think it will be good. One other thing I want to talk about, I just remembered when you said that. Do you guys know Josh Davis? Have you met him? He's our streets guy and he's really nice. He does like runs plowing and like street maintenance. And we're trying to like develop what's called like service level agreements for the town for all our maintenance operations, which we haven't really had, but it'll be like in snow, like when do we go out, how do we plow and do that kind of stuff, like emergency roads and then secondary roads or whatever, like that kind of stuff. And then same thing for culverts and road maintenance in the summertime. But I think that one of the things we're trying to do is set up a task force that could be CWPP and like all the different stakeholders in the region, including our volunteer teams and our staff, to do the same thing for fire mitigation. And so I think like there's a lot of, I think we were just talking about the dead wood. There's like we were just talking about all the dead wood up above Big Springs. There's a huge, just dead meadow basically.
Yep.
And then Moose Meadows, you guys were working there. So there's quite a bit of work. And then I think what we can do with this task force is really look from a context sensitive perspective at these areas and like how things, what needs to be hardened, how do we make sure we're doing the right things in the right places, and then hopefully pool resources so that we can start being a little bit more effective, like just by bringing the other bodies in. And I've talked to the Forest Service about it. I've talked as before layoffs. So we'll see how they're doing. But we talked to Boulder County and everybody. So I think there's a really good chance that we could use our team to really do something collaborative. And there is a grant right now that came about after Gross Fire last year that is Netherlands specific for fire mitigation. It's $3 million. And I think I could get it. We're still looking to make sure we're eligible, but it could also be things like hardening the water plant because we're very vulnerable to a mudslide after a fire in our water plant because there's no screening in the intake where the water is.
Gotcha.
So we're looking at some of that stuff, but I think fire mitigation and, doing it in a way that is correct, like that's what we want to do, is part of that we could do.
Do you know how many Forest Service folks from this area were laid off?
Great question.
I think it was not an insignificant amount. And this area actually happened like during the Joe Goose meeting. Like it was like they got the letter during the meeting.
Oh, really?
I would also
Like
add
the
that there's a lot
Boulder
of people
district.
in the Rocky
Or the
Mountain
Rocky
National
Mountain
Park area, park rangers that know these mountains, that know the forestry, who are also out of work. The people that are going to be able to help us with the challenges up here are now, they have a very good reason to leave. And if they leave these mountains, they walk away with knowledge that we will all miss a lot. Doing what we can as a community to support those people, to reach out to them, what we can as a board, I think is paramount importance.
If we have grants, can we just hire them?
Potentially.
There's not gonna be any.
Well, this grant, I know
There's no money.
this grant I could get, it's $3 million, which is the other thing we could do. It's like, I'm not 100% sure exactly where the end result of the money is, but it's not federal money. It's like coming from the state. But what we could do with it in theory, the other possibility is we could make micro grants for people. And Jim and I were actually just talking about this. So there's a lot of people who can't afford to have their properties looked at.
Yeah.
So that would be the other way. That might be a really good effective use of funding. And good tree service people, I just talked to her the other day and they are willing to be creative and help us do things too.
As they were in the Moose Meadows mitigation.
They're super cool.
That type of effort, we could ramp it up from a yearly to a bi-yearly or a monthly activity. It's exactly the type of thing we really need to weigh in on.
The other thing is that you guys should know, I met with Teen Zinc. The kids would really like, the trail building kids would really like to be more involved in Nederland. They cannot run chainsaws. That's what they can't do, but they could do other jobs.
There's a limitless amount of work to be done without chainsaws or power tools.
Just cleaning up dead stuff and.
Just cleaning up dead stuff.
But once we get this thing squared away, I think like they would be another good resource. And we actually were using them in Idaho Springs and they did really good job. So I think that that's another thing, but I think this task force could be, I don't know if you would be interested in having it be a working group of PROSAB, but it needs to be a clearinghouse. I think that's what we need we need to bring everybody together so we can work collaboratively. And if we build a document where we just, maybe it's a really good thing for the GIS as well, where we're targeting different areas and we know what's happened in different spaces, it could be a really.
I think it would be really good to have like, I'm not sure how this would work exactly too, but like, there's just so much that needs to be done. So it'd be good to like stuff from CWPP or like Charlie or like however like the appropriate way is like for someone to prioritize the different areas and then to be able to have like, yes, it'd be great to have like neighborhood, crews too, but also like just town-wide, like where are the top 3 spots that should be prioritized?
Exactly.
Next.
I think that's going into pros, actually.
The fire mitigation?
I think that maybe I could be wrong.
Fire
Some
mitigation for
prioritization of priority.
Saws
Yeah.
and slaws, well,
It doesn't.
the Moose Meadows cleanup was an evolution of saws and slaws. We
Okay.
Well, but
relied
that's
on a lot of their.
that's
It's
an
like a form,
organization that exists in Gilpin.
It is, and we reached out to them. They had also contacts in the Gold Hill area that helped us get resources to make it all happen.
Cool. I wasn't sure if you guys work with them on that Moose Meadows project or not.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did, absolutely. But it wasn't a saws and slaws event. It was kind of an offshoot.
It was like a similar deal, but just.
Yeah, there was slaw,
Okay.
there were.
Well, then the other thing we talked about was a training day, like a chainsaw training day and like fire safety with chainsaws, like that could be cool. And then the.
Ace Hardware will do that for you. We'll buy a chainsaw. I'm sure they'd
Okay.
be willing to help out with.
Well, I was thinking we could do something at Chipeta maybe and like have either a potluck or a barbecue or something. We could do like chainsaw day or something.
Absolutely. The more locals, the more willing backs we can get trained up and ready for the work ahead, the better.
Is
I
there,
can-
sorry to interrupt.
Oh, I was gonna commit to you that I can have volunteers ready by the time we need them this summer, so.
Can, is there any like,
Can I rein us back in a little bit? Because we have folks on the line waiting, and if folks want stuff on the agenda, like like slaws and things, please put it on the agenda, because then I can budget the time. But can we wrap it up so the other folks can get, folks who've been patiently waiting for their spot on the agenda?
Of course.
Yes. Thank you.
If we want to talk about saws and slaws, just send me an email next time I send out our agenda request, but sorry, we can't derail the whole meeting. Any other questions for John?
Other people have what out of fire rotation.
Eat salad.
I can't, sorry, if folks are talking, I can't hear.
I think we're good.
Yep.
Good, okay. Boulder Watershed Collective, I think Julian's on. I put you down for 15 minutes. Hopefully that's good, enough time for you to solicit our input. But I linked the kind of draft engagement plan you had sent in the agenda, so folks have that. And then Julian, thanks for your patience, and take it away.
Okay, I think when I have my microphone on, things get weird, so it might be that everyone else has to turn theirs off. I have to restart my Teams to get that figured out, but let me know if it's
okay for now.
Okay,
no,
cool.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so first of all, that is really amazing to hear. I love the talk about the fire mitigation crew and that grant, and I would love to meet up John to talk about that later at some point for sure. So that's really exciting to hear. I love to hear that. I mostly just wanted to come to the PROSAB meeting because we are the Boulder Watershed Collective is working on sort of our 2025 Nederland area wildfire resilience initiative. So we're really working on community engagement and other wildfire related programming throughout the year. And we wanted to sort of go through or get some of your comments on that plan that we have. Some of the questions that we have for you are whether you guys think that there's any missing engagement opportunities that we're missing that we could do, or anything that we should sort of take away from the list that doesn't really make sense for the Nederland community. And then also, how do you think people would like to participate in this kind of thing? And if you have any recommendations for, other events or citizen science initiatives and things like that. I'm going to just briefly go through like a couple of the major things that we were covering, just so you guys have a general sense, but also if you wanted to do written feedback on the engagement plan. That plan is still a kind of a draft, and things are getting tightened up as we go along, but still love your input on that. So any written feedback afterwards would definitely be appreciated too. But yeah, so some of the major pieces that we are working on are, well, we have a couple of projects going on. There is, as Josh mentioned, a Boulder County project in the Tucker area that's going to be starting. I can't really talk about that project in detail right now, but definitely looking for ways to get that information out into the community as effectively as possible, and also to hear community voices. I keep seeing my face freezing, so I don't know if you guys can hear me very well, but
you can.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So for that, some of the major pieces that we're working on are at least 2 site visits of the area, and then 1 sort of bigger community meeting where we can really hear resident concerns, that sort of thing. And then a web page, hopefully hosted on the town of Nederland, where we can put updates on the project, where people can go and hear about the project, and also maybe even a report form through that. I think that could be hosted through Town of Ned or through BWC, whatever you guys think would be most effective. And then also a couple citizen science opportunities. For these, we kind of have a lot of ideas, but would love to get input in in terms of like narrowing down what do you think would be best. Some of the ideas that have come up are photo programs where people go out onto the landscape and take photos of spots that are impactful to them, and send them into us. And through that, we can sort of get more information about the landscape, and put together that as a project and put it on a Google Maps area. So those photos can be sort of spaced geographically with a little write-up, and then commented on by foresters and given more information through that. That would help the foresters identify things on the landscape that they maybe can't do as in-depth in other ways. So like if there's a specific plant that people know about, that's something that they could show. But then some of the other things are like weed pulls or going into previous lodgepole treatment areas to help manage new regrowth, that sort of thing. But you know, we have quite a few ideas, but also if you guys have any ideas, we'd love more input on, you know, what the Nederland community is sort of interested in citizen science and you know, how they want to interact with their landscape in that way. And then we also have home hardening and defensible space programs that we're working on this year. We have about 3 weeks of Teens Inc. Labor booked. We're working with wildfire partners, and we're looking to do home hardening and defensible space work in 3 neighborhoods in Nederland: Old Town neighborhood, Big Springs neighborhood, and I think we are calling it the Pikes Peak Mobile Home Park area. So those are our main areas of focus. And for those, we're thinking of doing things like hardscape, doing hardscape and other defensible space work, and just general home hardening programming for people in that area. We have some funding to help with purchasing materials, doing vents, that sort of thing. And so we'll be sort of talking to the community and getting people signed up. In order to get that word out, we're hoping to go to the farmers market, the movie night at the community center, and then if there are other places that you guys recommend that we go to sort of bring that word out, that would be great. And then finally, the other thing that we're doing is an address sign drive. We have some money to help support purchasing address signs, and we're looking to work with the Nederland Fire Protection District to help get those installed. So we would help pay for that, and then hopefully work with partners to get those installed in people's houses. And so we'll be having sign-up sheets sort of wherever we are to get people to sign up for that. And all of that sort of culminates in this wildfire resilience initiative throughout the year. And we will be able to talk about lessons learned and go through some of the major accomplishments at the end of the year and share that out with the community afterwards. But yeah, so I just wanted to go through pretty quickly. I didn't have the thing in front of me since I know the tech is a little challenging today, but yeah, if you all want to take a look at it afterwards. I know Josh was on earlier. I'm going to connect with him too, because I know he had some concerns and interests in that. I can't talk specifically about that Tucker project yet, if you're still listening, Josh, but we'll definitely be reaching out to you and other community groups, such as the Magnolia Forest Group, to both go through this engagement proposal and also talk about those other places where you can have your input in there too. So I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if you guys want to sort of popcorn any ideas, or maybe I can repeat the questions if you'd like to talk through that. But yeah, let me know how you'd like that to go.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Sorry. There was a question at the beginning. It's a really bad echo.
Oh.
Sorry.
I think it's with Julian's.
You might need to mute yourself while they're asking, Julian.
There was a question at the beginning of your presentation about what is the Tucker area. Can you clarify what that is?
Yes, so Tucker is a property sort of in between Beaver Creek and Eldora Canyon Road. So it's a little north of the Nederland High School and north of Arapahoe Ranch. But it's that sort of area. There's also a wet meadow there where we're doing some wet meadow restoration projects. And so that would be incorporated into this project too. But that's, if that gives you kind of an idea, I can maybe get a quote up on the map.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. That's owned by Boulder County, correct?
Is that the one we sent to the Forest Service? So
Maybe, yes.
Is it owned by?
I believe that it's mostly Boulder County land. And because that's a Boulder County project, there's a lot less sort of say in how that project is developed. But we still want to be sure that the community is active in hearing about the process and sort of understanding and being able to voice their concerns about the project. But because it's a Boulder County, there is sort of less ability to sort of impact that design process in ways that perhaps people would want to.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. No, it's just always good to know who to direct thoughts and ideas to on different projects. So,
So Julian, if we've read your engagement plan and have comments and feedback, do you want us to email them, or what's the best way for us to share?
Yeah, I'd be happy to receive anything you have written down by email. I don't know if you guys have my email available, but I can give it to you now if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my email is just my first name, Julian, Julien, at boulderwatershedcollective.org.
yeah, you clearly.
Actually, it is at the.
Oh, sorry. I
Go
was just going to say, clearly put a ton of effort into this plan. So thank you so much for sharing it with us. It's much appreciated.
And it's at the bottom of his presentation
Yeah, I thought it was on.
as well.
Oh.
If you need to find it.
Yeah, it's on the last page.
Julian, thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate your work.
Yeah.
Julian,
Can I talk?
on the,
Oh, we don't use the hand raise function here except for me. Go ahead, Casey.
I was just gonna say that organizing weed pulls are one of PROSAB's priorities for working with the town on that front. So however we can join forces on weed pulls for this upcoming summer, let us know.
Thank you, Julian. I was just gonna say, I think the proactive communication piece, even with respect to Boulder County land, non-town land, is really important because there can be fear mongering, justified or not, on this topic. And I think the proactive kind of FAQs that the town put out regarding its potential acquisition of Nederland, yeah, we're going to acquire ourselves, of Eldora, is a good model. I'm not sure if you've seen those, but obviously those were very extensive. There was multiple parts, but I think something like that. And then town pushing that out via Engage Nederland and their social channels and posting on the Facebook group and things like that, just proactively before people start spiraling, is good. And then the home hardening is really exciting to hear about. And I'm wondering if you all have considered, sometimes the folks who are least engaged in these things and least likely to seek out the assistance are the ones who most need their home hardened and defensible space and things like that. So I'm wondering if you've considered a nominate your neighbor kind of thing, where it's this house on my street has brush piles everywhere, and then you could reach out in a very tactful way directly to them and be like, hey, have you heard about what we're doing this summer? So considering ways for folks to maybe try to plug in their unplugged in neighbors, it was my initial thought, but I'm also going to give more thought to your plan that is really thoughtfully put together. So thank you.
I really like that idea, and just want to say that as much as possible, we are trying to talk to people in those communities to be like, hey, can you connect us to the people that you think, definitely need it? So if you guys have contacts or know people in sort of those areas, always feel free to send them my way. link them up with me and we can talk about that. But yeah, try to use this snowball effect. Seems to be the most effective as much as possible. But that's a great idea.
Yeah, for Big Springs, I mean, Kat, Lindsay, and I all live in Big Springs, but you're welcome to reach out to me, and we can get you plugged in appropriately. I'm already having some houses in mind, but I don't think any of us live in Old Town. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and I'm not quite sure where this Pioneer Park place is, but if anyone has ideas for someone to plug Julian in there, please, you have his email.
Julie and I are going to meet maybe next week. I think Julian is what we're thinking. Is that where we're at? Yeah. So I can make sure he's got contact information for all of you and make sure we've got somebody in Big Springs and everywhere.
Yeah.
One other town property I wanted to flag, because we talked about it with Nikki at a previous meeting, so it kind of has a nexus with the volunteer program that we've been discussing, and I think maybe could use Boulder Watershed Collective's resources as well as the Wingate property. And I know Nikki mentioned that there's a lot of concern that a lot of fire mitigation needs to be done for that property as it kind of evolves into more of a town asset. So if that's something that we could somehow continue to have a conversation about collaborating with, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's also a Boulder Valley Longmont Conservation District grant that they're working on where, they might be able to add that into whatever they're doing. If it's, I'd love to get in touch to figure out where that is and whether we can sort of add it into things that we're doing, for sure.
Anything else for Julian?
I'm going to send you an email in a couple minutes with my feedback, but this is great. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, seriously, thank you for all of your work on this.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear
Thanks,
about.
everyone.
Okay, next, Eric, and I think Gavin, you're on as well. Thanks for your patience as well. And I got hot off the presses from Sam your deck. So that's linked in the agenda. It was not linked when I, sent it out earlier, but if anyone wants to see it. I put you down. I think Eric said 15 minutes would be good for presentation plus questions. So take it away. Thanks for being with us.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Do you want me to share my screen? I can share the presentation, or I can just kind of walk through it.
What do folks prefer? I have it up, but I don't know about folks in the room.
You can share it.
Okay. Let's see if this will work.
Thanks. Yeah.
I like your slide design.
Thanks, Canva. Might not have me. I don't know if I have permission to share it or if my computer is allowing me to share it. So if it was sent out, I can just read through it, or not read through it, but present on it.
Yeah, I don't know how to make you a presenter. That's beyond my pay grade, but it is linked in the agenda if folks want to bring it up on whatever they're looking at.
Okay. Okay, so then I'll just go through and don't necessarily have to share it. So, okay, so my name is Gavin Coombs. So I know some of you, I don't know all of you. I also live in Big Springs. But so I'm the executive director for Peak to Peak Endurance Foundation. We're a local nonprofit based here in Nederland who runs a number of youth sports programs, but also we're trying to expand to additional programming opportunities. So we're not just focused necessarily on sports and traditional recreation in that way. We've supported other programming at the library and at the high school and elementary school and things like that. And so we have been beginning work on the creation of the Greater Nederland Parks, Recreation, and Cultural District. Eric and I shared a little bit at the last meeting, the last PROSAB meeting here, I guess about a month ago, and just real briefly kind of gave an overview of what sort of we were working on. And we wanted to take some time today to be able to just share a little bit more specifically about what we're working on, have a little bit more details, and just have some time for questions and be able to just walk through some of this stuff. So I appreciate you giving us this time. I'm going to be doing the bulk of the presentation, and Eric's there at the community center, and so he also may be able to answer some questions at the end, depending on what the questions are. So I'm just going to hop right in. We're going to next page, table of contents, but as everyone knows that's a part of this board, Nederland is one of the best places for outdoor recreation in the country. I think it's a large reason why most of us live here, because we love being outdoors. We love all of the opportunities that we have. But over the last, many years, really, it's also been an exciting place for traditional team sports, but it also has a really vibrant senior community, a music and art scene that is just incredible, as well as historical and cultural sites that are extremely important. We came up with this idea for the district to support everything that makes the Greater Nederland area unique and to preserve it for many years to come. So the big question that we get is why, there you go, thanks. Why do we think that, why is a district necessary? So I'm fairly new to the history of the district, but the idea of a rec district is something that has been tossed around for several years, but there hasn't been a really solid or cohesive lead for someone to kind of lead this charge. The resources that a district can bring will be able to support and sustain every type of recreation. It also can help support new and existing parks, as well as supporting cultural and historical sites. But it'll be able to provide programming opportunities for every user group. So not just kids, but seniors, adults, adults with kids, adults without kids. There's a lot of opportunity here. So the town of Nederland has been and is the epicenter for life along the Peak to Peak. This includes, our retail shops and everything else that goes on in town, but also the community center, the ice rink, our parks. And as we all know, the resources are stretched extremely thin or are basically non-existent to support the growing population around the Peak to Peak region, and just the demand that growth places on the town. So the creation of a recreation district will be able to tap into the financial resources of the area to improve all aspects of recreation. And just a quick, side here. We don't necessarily define recreation as just traditional sports, basketball, football, whatever, or hiking or running, whatever. Recreation takes a lot of different shapes, and we understand that and want to grow that as well. So when you hear me say recreation, I'm going to get into what that means a little bit more and what some of those programming could look like. But I want to just be clear that we don't believe that recreation is just like traditional sports or fitness activities. So then again, to continue to answer the question of why do we need this district, the Peak to Peak is really, what I've kind of called a recreation desert, or facility desert at least. There's 40 miles, about an hour drive, as you all probably know, between Nederland and Estes Park, with really nothing in between in terms of indoor facilities for recreation or community gathering. We have access to our community center, and Gilpin's only about 20 minutes away. But if someone lives in Ward or the Barquet neighborhood or Allen's Park, they're driving 30 plus minutes, 30, 40 minutes to get somewhere to be able to exercise indoors, or in a safe and controlled place. So that really is, it just shows a lack of resources. Also along the Peak to Peak, we have an increasing senior population. but also an increasing young family population. And those populations need more resources. You know, families with young kids look to have places to go in the wintertime. Seniors need to have a place that is safe and accessible during the wintertime and all year, really. So, you know, we need to be able to provide those resources, as well as the low income and seasonal part-time workers. You know, in addition to needing affordable housing, they also need access to affordable recreation opportunities. And as I was looking through the comprehensive plan, this point was reiterated several times, but the need for just indoor recreational facilities, that's outlined a few times in the comprehensive plan for the town, but and is also one of the driving facets of this plan, is that people, you know, we all love to ski, we love to be outside in the winter time, you know, snowshoeing, whatever it is. But it's important to have indoor opportunities as well. And the Nederland Community Center is fantastic, but can't meet the needs of the population. Nederland serves a population of around 7,500 people, but doesn't actually have any formal recreational programming. At the community center, there are, you know, a lot of programs that go on, but none that are actually like run by the town or facilitated by the town. Tax revenue from the district would ensure the long-term sustainability and programming of the facilities. And that is one of the big key components of this, is that, you know, the town of Nederland is very small with a small tax base. It does a ton to support the surrounding area, but it can't continue to tax the residents to support the larger area. And also Boulder County doesn't have much of an interest in supporting this type of idea in just Western Boulder County specifically. I think they support the idea, but they don't have the resources or care to contribute the resources to see any of this expand. Just quickly, the pros and cons. The pros of a new district are reduced program costs. So I can use, you know, what we do already as an example. Peak to peak endurance, we run youth, we run peak to peak soccer, basketball, and hockey. All of our programs cost substantially more than, say, like Gilpin does, for instance, because we support our programming through just registration fees. So our fees have to be more. With a tax base associated with this district and the programs, we would be able to significantly reduce how much it costs to run our programs. We would also be able to offer significantly more programs. We would be able to expand and improve on new facilities as well as existing facilities. This is the long-term sustainability of recreational resources. Also increased employment opportunities for seasonal and part-time residents, and just a more vibrant social and community events. There'd be a lot more that we'd be able to offer. The one downside of this, of course, yeah.
Well, hold on, I'm sorry, Gavin, we're having a technical issue. Give me one.
Okay.
All like voice exactly.
You're sounding like right now. You were, but
Which was cool.
yeah. Will you try talking again?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Those of us online can always hear you, Gavin. Don't worry.
Okay. Okay.
Damn thing's cursed.
I know, we need
I
to,
think there's poor network quality.
Yeah. I had to go to a hotspot because I couldn't even keep. So
this is
I
the most
find out.
frustrating internet room of all time.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, it really is. Yes.
I apologize. One day I'll have $50,000 and our problems will all go away.
Is that the cost of an owl?
It's like what it costs to upgrade all the electrical and everything in this room to like make it an actual meeting space. But you know, if
Now
one
it's
of you wants.
flickering like a horror movie though.
Gee,
Okay, but I think that's okay for now. Gavin, are you good? Can you guys hear us? Kat? No? Nod if you can hear. No? Okay.
we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay, all
Okay.
right. Gavin, go for it.
Okay. No problem. Okay. So, as I was gonna say, for what we could really kind of come up with, the really only negative side of the creation of a new district like this is really that it's going to lead to somewhat increased taxes. So, and we'll get into what that might look like just in a little bit. And none of that's set yet or final by any means, but obviously all the funding and resources come from a tax base. So I also wanted to address quickly how this would relate to town. So we have met with Jonathan and Mayor Giblin and talked a little bit about how we would work together, because we see this distinctly as like a really close partnership. I mean, obviously 2 separate entities. A district basically acts as its own sort of pseudo municipality, but we would work very closely with the town of Nederland and know that this can really be a win-win for the town as well as the district. You know, the town has a lot of incredible resources. I mean, we've talked a lot about a lot of them, you know, tonight, and I think you guys do a lot. So, you know, things like the community center, the ice rink, Chipeta, all the pocket parks around town, the undeveloped, maybe soon to be like developed land like Moose Glades and those sorts of things. The town has a lot of incredible facilities. We would look to partner with the town to help develop those, to bring in resources to be able to expand and improve upon those. So we are not looking to come in and take over things, have people lose their jobs or whatever. Like, we want this to be a really close partnership and work hand in hand with each other. And I think we can definitely do that. Obviously, there's a lot of details that need to be worked out there, and we're pretty early on in this process. So, but we will work through all of those and come up with a solution that works really well for everyone. So I think this next slide, actually, I think I have kind of on here twice. So you guys just skip that one.
Can I ask real quick, Gavin,
Yes.
if you don't mind? And this might be more for John too. But first question is, that's the typical setup, right? Like the town retains their parks department if they have one, or jurisdiction over certain assets, and then the special rec district kind of like overlaps. Like that's a common setup in the state, right? Where you have like a town parks department within the recreation
Different.
district.
There's different models, and I think like that's the critical piece. Like you can handle this. There's something called an intergovernmental agreement that could handle like how this works. And I'll just give you examples from my past, but in Idaho Springs, where the baseball fields are and the soccer fields are, that's like a 99-year lease, like kind of like Teens Inc. And they manage the facility, but other towns do it differently. So I think what's critical is that we figure out how these agreements work, and like it really builds into the scope of service for the district and like what they need to do and then what the town can do. But, you know, then it might get complicated. Like if we build a pool or if we improve the hockey rink, like maybe there's different kinds of structure there. But I think that that's really the crux of the conversation, is figuring out that piece and then just executing whatever legal agreement that would be. But there's definitely flexibility in the statutes to do something like that, like you mentioned.
Okay. And then my somewhat second related question is, when we brought up this topic before, it was probably like at least 18 months ago, like before your time, Nikki and Miranda had said something along the lines of town staff are not able to participate in the creation of this district. And folks can check me, that's my recollection. But was that incorrect, or are we doing something different right now? I'm just trying to understand where we, like how, if there's any restrictions on town board or town staff's ability to participate in this. Obviously the information is fine to share, but like beyond that.
I don't think that I have a limitation on, there's some things I can do, and it's just probably what becomes appropriate for everybody. And I think that's why, like, it's a citizen-led initiative, and you have a pretty wide swath. I mean, that's the thing, is like there's a big underserved area, but it's also a very big area that needs to be engaged. And so there's like, that's why I think it's probably best to have like it be a citizen-led initiative, basically. But there are certain things that could work potentially, like for the town to be a part of. And I think part of the reason why that makes sense is because if there is anticipated town resources used, we need to really make good decisions and make sure that folks, like decision makers, are making decisions, which would be the residents of the town, about how you want your resources used and what that looks like. So I think what we need to do is just be careful about making sure nobody, just making sure we don't step over obvious lines, and not, I don't want to say lines in the sand because that is like temporary, but you know what I mean? Like, we're just trying to keep everything on the up and up.
Okay. Thank you.
I think, the initiative is bigger, like in scope, geographically, literally bigger than the town of Nederland alone.
Right.
I think we also have to be realistic and recognize that the vast majority of the permanent facilities that we're talking about here are located in the town of Nederland and owned by the town of Nederland. And so the town has to be a partner on this one way or another, or it's never really going to work.
Apex does a thing that's interesting. So that's the Arvada Metropolitan or Rec District, and they have like concentric rings, and there's different rates depending on where you are and what you pay. And there could be something like that here too. But I think like what the job is here is to figure out what the scope of work would be for the rec district. And I think that really depends on your funding and all that kind of thing. And then how we can integrate, because I think if it does happen, the partnership's important. I will, and I've told them, and I think Gavin summed it up pretty well, like town resources should stay town resources, I think, but that doesn't mean that they can't be used and improved and, and managed differently and all that kind of stuff. So, and the other thing is there may be even other ways, if this doesn't work, there's other ways we could achieve some of these same goals. But I think like going through the process of looking at this is probably the right kind of the path to go down and see, when you look at the Western Boulder region, like what is needed here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to be clear, like this is, our presentation tonight is geared towards PROSAB in the town of Nederland. We will be reaching out to, and we'll get to I have a map of what the district will look like, or potentially look like. And so we'll be reaching out to all of those specific areas as well. But like Jonathan and Eric said, like the vast majority of what would be happening and where the facilities are already is in the town of Nederland. So, this presentation looks a little bit different, like when we go up to Barquet and talk to the residents there and so forth. But definitely want to have input from every single part of what the potential district would be.
Can I just ask? I'm curious on the cons. I'm sure it's not a huge amount, but I'm sure people will ask, like, when they see increased taxes, they'll ask like, how much will they go up? Do you have any idea of that, or have you done any math there of what you're proposing?
Yeah, roughly, to be fair, and we do get to that a little bit, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But we're not anticipating a huge tax increase, especially since it's such a large area that it pulls in a lot of people. So the general mill levy that we would be looking to have is not huge, somewhere between 3.5 and 5 mils, which is, if it was 5 mils, that's like $5 for every $1,000 of assessed value based on Boulder County property assessments. So, it's not, I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, there are very few other district other than property tax would be the
$5 per $1,000 of value.
Right.
Okay.
Sweet. That's very helpful. Like just rough.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the high end. I mean,
we really don't want to make
preferably
any
lower than that.
But one of the big factors will be how big of a district we can actually get.
Right.
The service
Yeah. I'm sure about that because
$5 for every.
of assessed value.
Yeah, but sorry, can you repeat?
So what we multiply the actual value by the assessment rate.
that's a large amount of money.
The assessment rate is 6.8% right now.
Oh, what do you mean by the assessment rate?
So that's-
You don't mean the actual assessed value?
Yeah. So it's the,
So like, what would be
Your
like?
house is worth 800,000, for example.
multiply it by 6.8%.
And
That,
then multiply that by.
and then
Comparable.
multiply that.
Like we all live in a library district and a fire protection district. Is that comparable to the mill levy for those or less or more?
It's less.
It is 4.
Less. Okay.
Mhm.
So you all pay taxes on these other things, just so you know.
Definitely. I do think it's really important if you're talking to people about this to not talk about it in the abstract or in mills, because that doesn't have a lot of, like, I have no idea what that means. And like,
You'd say like 14 mils and it's like the same.
Yeah.
right. So you're saying like, so if your home is worth
X.
X,
You'd like,
you could be paying between X and X, and you know, like, because it's like, that's just not, it's, yeah, it's just confusing.
But it's not worth
Or
that. It's not like your Zillow value, but yeah.
An example of the library district right now is this much, and the fire protection district is this much, or something like that, which I should know those things, but I don't, so whatever.
It's on the
What?
It'll tell on the assessor's website if you look up your property.
Oh, yeah, no, I know I can look it up, but like, I just don't know it off the top of my head. But like, if, you know, just having a range based on like real dollar numbers, I think would be.
I have a list of every home in the entire proposed district and what the assessed values are.
Sure, which
But
is
like,
good,
so-
but like for the presentation,
But like what I'm saying is we could show that, like there's the data,
like the range.
it's really parsing it is really what it is. I think in the FAQ thing is probably how, it's probably another good way to do it.
Yeah.
But basically what you could do is you could show, you could show different home values and what the,
Exactly. You could do like one at the low end, one in the middle, one on the high end, and like, here's what the dollar amount could be.
I think that's a
Sorry.
useful thing for you in general, just to have that as the community, so you know what you're looking at and stuff.
Sorry, Gavin, back to you. Didn't mean to derail. We can
Yeah,
do
it's totally
questions at the
fine.
end.
It's absolutely fine, and I really appreciate all those questions. And believe me, I am far from a tax expert, so I've had to learn, what a mill means and how to calculate that, and still very much a novice on that. But getting back to the presentation, and we can talk a little bit of numbers here in a second too. So we a big part of this is like, what would a district like this be able to offer? And so everything that I'm about to kind of talk through is a potential, and really the sky's the limit, honestly. And it's almost been more of a challenge to like narrow down, like there's just so many ideas that we could potentially do. And so but kind of what I'll talk through here for the next minute is about just some of these potential facilities and programs that we could walk through. And another just quick caveat here is that a district is basically a municipality with residents who vote. So the residents of a district vote to create kind of a board of directors or like a board of trustees, just like the town of Nederland. And so we would strongly encourage and seek out the participation of all of the residents to get their feedback on what kind of facilities or programming that they would want. So this is really just kind of a brain dump of what things that we feel like would be really fantastic to see, and things that we've heard, but is far from an exhaustive list. And if this were to happen and to be created, there would be a long process of getting feedback from lots of people, or everyone, hopefully everyone in the district, to give feedback on what they want to see. But all that being said, I think some potential new facilities here would be like a North District recreation facility. So like I said, there's really nothing between Nederland and Estes Park. This district would go up to about the Barquet neighborhood outside of Jamestown. But having some kind of facility north of Ward, between like North and Overland Road, it would be, I think, a really fantastic thing to be able to provide an indoor recreation opportunities for the people who live sort of in northern Boulder County. There's a ton of different programs. I'm going to get a little bit more specific here in just a second about different potential new programs that we could run. Trails, obviously a big thing that PROSAB wants to do, whether that's around in town, and it's part of the multimodal plan and connection between different parts of town here, but also connections through different parts of Western Boulder County. just highlighting different trail opportunities for mountain bike trails, hiking trails, skiing trails, whatever it is. Bike infrastructure, and I think this is a really great opportunity. And what I mean by infrastructure here really is like using like a place like Ward, for example. Hundreds of cyclists come up Left Hand Canyon for every Saturday and Sunday. But they don't have places. They have, the little shop in town, but like creating a bike shelter and like water stop for them that provides them a safe access to get off the road, to not block the road for car traffic. Increased bike signage along the peak to peak, designated bike routes, things like that to kind of create a safer cycling environment up here. And then also on a larger, longer term scale would be land acquisitions. This could be things for like just conservation, for like open space, for trail creation, ball fields, different types of, facilities like that. Land acquisition, obviously, it's an expensive thing. That was a little bit of a longer term play here over several years, not something we would be able to or want to do necessarily right away. Getting into the programming, this is, I think, the biggest piece of what a new district can really offer. Most of these programs can be broken down into youth programming, adult programs, senior programs, and then just sort of general. What a youth program, different youth programs that could exist, something like volleyball, flag football, baseball, different types of mountain biking opportunities, swim teams, but also pottery, painting, music classes, tennis, summer camps, and different types of summer camps would be a huge part of what the district could offer. Also scholarship programs to support participation in all of these things. And then another big thing would be after school care. I think obviously with the daycare and whatnot coming, but I think the after school care and after school opportunities would be a really important piece, because the elementary school struggles to be able to provide things like that. Adult programming, these would be things for people 18 and over. They could be co-ed, men, women, specific options. Things like organized basketball, softball, volleyball, skiing groups, hiking groups, running or triathlon groups, pickleball, tennis, swim teams, social dance nights, music lessons, having a public art studio. All of these things would be possible. And then senior specific programs, these obviously would be for people 55 and over, also co-ed, men, women, specific options. Pickleball, tennis, hiking and walking, organized groups, water aerobics, strength training, crafts, yoga, things like that would all be opportunities. And then general programs would be sort of cultural, historical, or nature hikes that are guided, bike rentals that we'd have opportunities to do. And then as well as equipment rentals, there are things like gear libraries that I know some local libraries provide, but this could be something that we'd be able to tap into, like to provide like tents, sleeping bags, backpacks to check out, sort of like a library. And those are all sort of the general programs. Again, this is one of those pieces where like the sky's really the limit here, where if people had an idea of what they wanted to see, they just let us know, and we may be able to make it happen. Really seeing it as like a participatory democracy sort of thing. Then we kind of move into the potential improvements, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here because I know a lot of this, basically all of it, really leans heavily onto town-owned facilities, and so we are far from having those agreements ironed out. So these are not things; these are just things that are either in the comprehensive plan that the town has put together, or just things that we have heard that people would like to see. So things at the community center, like a pool, would be incredible. Expanded weight room, cardio rooms, additional court space like basketball or pickleball, or just different court sports for indoor. Also additional community and art studio classes, and that goes into the dance, music, gymnastics type of opportunities as well. At the ice rink and the tennis courts, creating a place for separate tennis and pickleball courts. I know that's been heated debate for several years, and I think we'd be able to help provide resources to make that happen. Then finding chillers or in a shade structure to help keep the ice around longer. If we do a few things well, we can keep the ice rink open for months as opposed to weeks, and that would be a huge benefit to the community, as well as expanded parking and more summer activities that can take place on the rink surface as well. A bigger, longer term thing that we would look at as well is being able to run some campgrounds. I know obviously with all the cuts to the Forest Service, things are probably not looking great for some of the dispersed camping areas around the town of Nederland, and that's a scary thing. But I think assuming we'd be able to work through some issues with the Forest Service, maybe we can help put in bathrooms, trash receptacles, maybe even turn some of this dispersed camping into developed campsites. Again, sky's kind of the limit here. Obviously, all very, very dependent on the IGAs, the intergovernmental agreements that Jonathan mentioned. So take all of this as these are just brainstorm ideas, obviously nothing concrete or set. So then the next slide is what the district could potentially look like. Just real quick, the district really would be determined by the Boulder County Commissioners. We propose what we would like to see the district be. The county has to approve that, and then it would go to a vote. But this map shows where this blue shaded structure that includes Nederland and Ward, and it's not on the map, but does include the Barkay neighborhood, as well as parts in Coal Creek Canyon and along Magnolia, is the area that draws into Nederland Elementary. So this is the BVSD district map. And so everyone in the blue shaded area draws into Nederland Elementary. We excluded, on the bottom part of the map, we excluded parts in Gilpin County because that would not be part of the district at this point. And so that's not there. But, and so that's kind of what yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask, does that overlap with the library district, or is that totally different?
Yeah.
It's bigger.
Yeah, it's much bigger. Yeah.
Cool. Just curious. I had no idea.
Yeah, on a related
The-
point, I do think it would be
Yeah.
helpful to have a table
So-
with other districts, special districts that whoever you're presenting to might be a part of, and compare the mill levy and be oh, these are all the benefits they saw after they formed their district, and just kind of show that, because I think folks are more comfortable with something they're already familiar with. So the more you can equate it to things that are already in existence, I think would be helpful. Sorry if I
That's
cut
a great
someone
idea.
off.
Yeah.
No, it's a good idea. It also, one of the reasons it came to our view of how libraries can be sort of cultural and educational assets that's happening in a lot of other parts of the world, like tool libraries and that kind of thing. And I was wondering if it might be a good partnership type of thing, but it sounds like maybe that could be, but it's also maybe a very different geographical area. But just to put that little bug in your ear, it's not really things being done in some large library districts that overlap a lot with what you might think, a lot of the things that you're describing.
Yeah,
So,
you see great stuff
super.
rentals of backpack kits for
Exactly.
exploration that you can then go out onto a trail and you get the stuff from the library and you return it to.
Yeah.
But those kinds of partnerships and cost sharing and joint programming, I think, would be what this district is all about. It wouldn't, there's no single place or district would live like a library or a fire department, right? There's a place where those things exist. This would be everywhere all the time. Collaborating over
Cool options. So
And I know Gavin's already talked to them, and I think we'll be
Oh, nice.
more in touch with the library as we go.
One question or maybe piece of feedback, if eventually the presentation goes more public, I would add a key to the map page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like showing the school districts and stuff, Caroline. The room, I think, is frozen, so
Okay.
we're hearing like half of what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're frozen. Gavin, do you, since you can hear me, do you need anything else from us, or like folks continue to provide feedback via email, or like, I don't know if they're, I think this was just informational, but let us know.
Yeah. So, and I'm not sure if the rest of the board can
Yeah,
hear
I don't know either.
it, no, I mean, I think feedback is fantastic, and I definitely appreciate everything so far. And then if there's additional feedback, I can give everyone my email address and would really appreciate that. I think we would love to see, we're gonna bring
Sorry,
this,
Gavin, we have not heard anything you've said. The owl reset again. Apologies. I don't know if you guys
I know
heard
you
us
guys
talk
couldn't
about
hear us, but I
what
was
the
just checking with him.
Caroline suggested a key on the map, so I don't know if you heard that. Okay,
we
okay.
did, yeah.
We heard it.
Other than that, no, we have not heard you, and we're
Okay.
sorry. And John
Sorry.
left. He couldn't handle it.
He's resigned.
He's gonna go yell at the tech.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear us, and can someone speak so we can see if we can hear you? We're doing a different device.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, Gavin, we missed everything you just said.
That's okay. So Alex, I just asked what else kind of the PROSAB board can.
Now you from.
Oh, no.
Gavin, I can hear you.
You're good now. But there was a slight delay.
Okay, Alex can hear me. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so Alex had asked about what else the PROSAB could provide here, and obviously your feedback is fantastic. And so if you have any additional feedback, you can email me. My email address is Gavin, Gavin, at peaktopeakendurance.com. And so feel free to, excuse me, to email me with feedback, questions. We would love to have the support of PROSAB on this. Excuse me. Whether that means, a letter of support to the BOT or whatever that, I think looks like. I know as an advisory board, you can advise the town on issues like this. And so I believe that the town is supportive in the general, ideation of this program in the district. But having the PROSAB on board, I think our mission aligns very closely with what PROSAB is trying to do and what we are trying to do, just on a larger scale. And so would love to have your support. So if you want, there's one more slide if you want me to talk through it, or if we're running short on time, I can.
Suggest is, since we haven't had time to kind of discuss as a board, just an idea for folks, let me know what you think, is like maybe in our March meeting, we can discuss this, and perhaps if we are in favor of it, discuss how we can exhibit that support. Or I don't know if it makes sense for Eric and Gavin if we can buy more of their time to attend if there's questions that come up that aren't answered right now. So what do folks think about that as a next step?
I think that sounds great.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll have it on the agenda for our March meeting, which I think is around the 20th, or probably exactly a month from now. If either of you are able to attend, I'll reach out to you. I'm just thinking of it, not to present again, but I'm just thinking of it for questions. And if not, we can revert back via email if that works.
And I think, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say the one thing is that we are moving pretty quickly, and I know that the BOT wants to look at this sooner rather than later, and our idea would be that we have PROSAB's recommendation to the BOT before we bring it to a BOT meeting, which we could conceivably do and get moving a little faster before March 20th. I think that's conceivable. John would know if that's really true or not. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. So if you are funding this through a tax, can you just speak a little louder? Sorry. If you're funding this through a tax and you want this to move forward, is there like a fiscal year that you're aiming to get approvals by? Like, are you trying to get things locked in from the town by
So this needs to go to a general election.
Okay,
so no Tabor measure, no tax measure.
That general election wouldn't happen until the fall.
It could happen as early as November of this year. That is ambitious, although because it's still technically possible, we feel like we should get our stuff in order so that we're not just constantly delaying this. But my suspicion is that it will take until next November, 2026, though that's a long time to keep on working on it. Our major barrier, as far as we can tell, because we've generally received a lot of indications of support from the Nederland community. Almost nobody has given us any resistance, whether it's neighbors or BOT members or folks on PROSAB, that we haven't heard a lot of resistance to this idea. It's the county commissioners that we need to talk to, and they're going to take time, and they're going to want to deliberate on this. They want to know that the town of Nederland is on board, because they don't want to deal with a citizen initiative that is counter to the town of Nederland's desires, right? So our goal is to secure the town's support basically as soon as possible, so we can get the conversation moving with the commissioners in a concerted way. I'm just throwing that out there. If it takes more time, it takes more time.
I think it's nothing wrong with being ambitious.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, if it's up to the voters, why does the county, what did the county?
They need to approve a service plan for a special district.
Okay.
And then send it to the voters.
Got it. So like they have to approve it
because they have the
before
big picture of the whole county, right? So they can say, well, your boundary that you want to draw for the special district is too big.
Yeah, got it.
If you guys want this, we're drawing a line here. You know, you can't go past this particular county line.
I think that in my grand 3 years on PROSAB now, I think my one like piece of maybe wisdom that I would offer is that we should not rush this conversation and taking like an actual vote on it, and we should actually encourage, like we should definitely at least like wait 1 more month for discussion, but as much as humanly possible, you should make sure that the community knows this conversation is happening before PROSAB is asked to take a vote, and 110% before the BOT is going to talk about it, because I think like in the long run, it will be better for the project itself.
What do you mean by the community?
Like the people of Nederland.
Okay, well, so we don't have a budget, right? We're just humans. So we don't have a community engagement budget to do this. Like we can't go out and start doing like campaigns to let people know.
Sure.
We're going to be relying on the partnerships that we create, like with the library and with the town in particular, on getting that community engagement going. And one of the
so
big.
Wait, sorry, can I clarify what I was saying though? Because I think that I don't think there's any like budgeted information needed, but like I can almost guarantee you no one knew that this was on the agenda at PROSAB tonight, because there was no post about it, there were no flyer, like, right? Like, and I think what will happen is if PROSAB votes on this without a concerted effort to make sure that everyone knows that this conversation is happening, then there will be blowback, and same for the BOT. So, and I don't think that other people can be counted on to publicize that this will be happening. I think I think that if you all want to have PROSAB and then the BOT engage on this, then I think that for the long-term good of wanting to have this happen, by far and away the most important thing you can do right now
is make as much noise as possible so that everybody and their mother knows that we're talking about this and making a decision on it before we actually do. That's just my advice to someone who thinks that this sounds really, really cool. And I do not want to see a year from now some people put a ballot out there to kill it because there's a conspiracy theory that this was done in secret.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, that is gonna happen one way or the other.
I mean, it will, but
yeah.
also I think that there are a lot of ways to make sure that people
Well, I guess what I'm saying is town has a platform to do that and we don't.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. So if PROSAB wants the community to know that PROSAB is delivering on this, I think PROSAB should be the people to advertise it, not us.
But what platform? We're
You
also
like the town can
volunteers.
literally email the whole
Peter,
town.
Yeah.
before you leave.
Sure, and I
Like,
think
we
that
can
if
do
you
that.
ask Peter to do that,
Yeah.
but I don't
Well,
think you can
but I don't think
you can
they
count
really
on
ask
third
the
parties to
town.
publicize
No,
your
we
project.
can't ask the
It would have to
town.
be from us
to do
say,
work for
"Hey,
us."
Peter.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
No,
we could, but
I mean,
it's-
like when I was working for community organizations all the time, I would email Peter or Miranda and be like, hey, can you post this,
Sure.
share, the food pantry is
Yeah.
doing a, vaccine
But
clinic.
it'd be great
or...
because it would be great if it went on town's
But, one thing
Facebook.
we could
and-
do-
Yeah, totally. I think that would be great.
One thing we could do as it being brought before PROSAB is say, okay, this as PROSAB versus as the special district, organizers, I guess is how you consider yourselves, if we feel like it's important for the town to know that we're discussing this, then it's something irrespective of what they choose to do with your advice, we can still say hey, Peter, can you put this out? This is something that we're discussing as a town, and we'd like to get some input so that we make a advisory decision that is in line with what appears to be the town's, actual desires.
I think the more outreach, the better.
That's a way.
So I think for both, I think
I
the
think
more
it's odd for the town to be publicizing a governmental entity that is not the town. That seems crosswise to me. I think it makes sense for PROSAB to say, this is consistent with our goals and we are not opposed to this, blah, blah, if that's where we ultimately land. But I second what Kat's saying about the community engagement piece and going back to the Eldora FAQs, inviting the pushback so you can tailor your presentation to what because Eric, you said you weren't hearing anything, but maybe if you
heads, just putting your ideas out there.
Sure, but that's not really what that's not the phase that we are in here. I don't think, at least for us, it's too loose. There aren't any lines drawn. We don't know who would even be in the district yet. It's a bit.
So if you pause and take a
loose.
step back, what is the function of presenting to us?
As I said, our audience is the Boulder County Commissioners. That's our audience, because we need to define what this district looked like, at what mill rate they would even consider approving the service plan for it, at what boundary they would even consider, putting on a ballot. They're our main audience at this stage, and we are working on talking to them. But what we were hoping for was that we could go to the commissioners saying the town of Nederland is on board with supporting the exploration of this special district as an idea.
I guess I just don't know if the town can be on board if it doesn't know the residents are on board. So it's
right. So I'm saying ask the residents. You guys ask the residents.
I think the town has enough to ask its residents about. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess
we're over time, so I'm kind of
asking the residents, but you don't want to ask the residents. That's confusing to me.
I mean, I think
that it's not a town initiative. It would be explicitly another governmental entity.
There is no other governmental entity. We're just asking the town if you support the exploration of this district. And
of another governmental entity.
Yeah, it would be another governmental entity.
It would be.
Yes, it would. So I don't, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can go round and round and round on whose responsibility it is to sort of ask about this, but I think in the sort of role that PROSAB has, we get approached by a lot of different entities with a lot of different ideas, and we're asked to make a decision on them. And I think there's no hard and fast rule about how that works, right? Like we can decide to vote on something, or we can decide to, you know, not, or we can decide to do sort of outreach. But I think what you're hearing is an encouragement that it would be beneficial to your project if we had more security, that the town had been, you know, engaged and notified that this was coming up on the agenda before we're asked to like discuss it and make a decision, is at least where I'm coming from. So there is, like, you're right, there's no hard and fast rule, but like also we get asked to do and like weigh in on a lot of different things, and we can't really like run a campaign on all of them. I don't know, Alex, it seems like you're nodding, so I don't know.
I guess I still don't really understand. Sure, we'll keep telling people about it, but I mean, that's all we can really do. We don't have a staff. You guys have staff.
We're volunteers. We're volunteers. We do not.
Oh, I've done this job.
Yeah, we can recommend.
I've been on
I'm not
PROSAB.
sure who is our, we can't, I mean.
Well, we do have like
bonus
evidence.
You know, request over what the staff does.
I'm unclear on the ask here.
I mean,
The ask is whether or not you support exploring this project or not.
And I think we want to hear, I think as a board, we're saying we want to hear more from the community members before PROSAB decides to take that next step and advocate to the BOT, so then the BOT can advocate potentially to the Board of County Commissioners. And I mean, I think maybe I wouldn't be opposed to using Peter to just have inviting people to come next month to talk about this and hear from some people, and then we can have a discussion on it. I don't think that that's like
The thing is,
huge...
we're going to get into the weeds really quickly here on questions we cannot answer at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if you don't do it now, it's
can't-
gonna come back and bite.
But the problem is that we have such little certainty over any of these factors, and the town of Nederland doesn't have any control over them anyway.
But I think
So
we should
what's
just be
the-
honest with
what's
people
the
about
point?
that.
Well, I don't think they're not being honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's just,
No, I'm
we're
not
going
saying
to say,
that.
oh.
I'm saying like if that's like the
Between
answer,
three
is
and
we just.
between 3 and 5 mills in this general district, like it's just an idea. It's really just an idea.
I personally think it's a very good idea, but I'm not here to just speak for myself personally. I'm here to try and represent the parks needs of the community. I don't feel, as someone that keeps a close ear on this, that the community has really had a chance to, in any way, digest this notion. And while I may think it's a great idea, I personally do, I think it does need some broader discussion before we can really say, hey, yes, there's at least some popular consensus.
I mean, so I do a lot of community engagement for my work. So there could be some really light touch ways that you guys maybe have already done, and it's just packaging that feedback. So like, I know like Gavin, Eric, I'm not sure if you also are leading Peak to Peak Endurance.
I'm on the board.
Okay, yeah, so you guys run Peak to Peak Endurance, and from that, there's all these events and things like kids programming. I'm sure like you probably informally have talked to parents actually about this idea and how, you know, it would be nice if there was, you know, a pool or XYZ or other things.
Indeed.
And just kind of like you don't necessarily have to send out a brand new survey if you've already talked to people, but maybe just add one slide summarizing, you know, like, you know, Peak to Peak Endurance currently serves this many people. We've engaged folks in conversations or whatever it is, like, or informally, formally, however you want to say it, but just kind of showing that like, this has been murmuring, there's been murmurings around this, and other people aside from just the two of you, like, may have support for this, because I'm sure there's widespread support for it. And that could be all it is just kind of repackaging that story.
And I also think like, I think it's a great idea, like in general, for like Peter or whoever replaces Peter to post on like the town social media channels about like what's coming up at different meetings and that sort of thing, including this. And I also think like oftentimes posts from like official town channels gets really buried on social media just by nature of how social media works. So I think another pretty like simple low-key thing that one of the two of you or both of you, even better, could do could be like, you know, like a week before the next meeting, be like, hey, we're all going to be at, you know, this meeting. You can call in, you can come. We're going to talk about this thing. Would love to hear anyone and everyone. You know, I think there like are pretty like low-key ways to encourage people to start spreading the word that this is a conversation that's happening. And like a letter to the editor, to the Mountaineer, is also always a good thing. They're almost always published. If like it's not like a hot button time, right? Like I've had several published. So, and that's a good way to get at people who don't do like the whole social media thing, or like, you know, posters at the post office or flyers at the post office.
So there will be a stage of this project where there will be a draft service plan that will be based on the commissioner's recommendations that will have been negotiated between the coalition that's, you know, trying to get the district formed and what the commissioners want to see. That draft service plan will come to you, will come to the board for actual real approval, right? Not just the thought of a dream of an idea, but a concrete, legally worded plan that will then require loads of community engagement and a massive campaign in order to get it passed, right? We're just, it sounds like you're asking us to do that twice, and that seems like a lot to me. Like, we can't get a community engagement campaign going for something that doesn't really exist yet. We want to be partners with the town on it. We want the town to say essentially to the commissioners and to us that they're on board with exploring this idea, and then see what it actually is and see what it comes to. And then you could vote it down if you don't like it. But right now, a double community engagement campaign sounds daunting and exhausting.
One thing to also consider is for the comp plan, they already did community engagement. I think you guys did a good job of pointing out at various points in your presentation how it aligns and supports those comp plan goals. And so maybe when communicating this, you know, externally, you could also point to some of the community engagement that was already done there and how this, you know, supports the desires of the community in that way. I know you mentioned the pool, and that was like a big thing with comp plan. So I think there's like a lot of alignment here, and it might just be like tweaks in how you're packaging it. But either way, I know like Nikki's not here tonight, and so we probably would want to vote on it at our next meeting. I'm newest to PROSAB, so I don't know if we can vote anytime before then. So I'm not sure if we're like
unless we have like a special.
No, we
meeting.
can't. And we actually
I think
we also can't vote tonight because it wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah.
So correct. Yeah, and so I think like I totally, as someone who's run many volunteer-driven campaigns, like I totally get like it may sound like sort of like a double dipping of the sort of community outreach pool. I think that I think what we're asking is actually, as Caroline put it, like relatively light touch to make sure that people know that we're having this conversation that you've brought to us before the conversation happens, such that like the community has the ability to come join and like offer their thoughts and feedback. And I totally understand that there's a lot of, you know, questions that would not yet be answered. I think that's just how it works with these kind of things. And I think being super clear about that in the presentation, like these are like all sorts of ideas, and we're like, you know, like ultimately these are the deciders, but like we wanted to make sure to hear from the community before moving forward. So, you know, and I get if like, you know, it could be that that's not something that you all have the capacity to do, but I think like it sounds like a good chunk of the board is asking for that kind of feedback before we take this up.
Can I try? I'm going to be a little bit contrary and not entirely there, but respectfully, like I do think a lot of what we're doing is we're telling them, hey, thanks for this presentation. Here's how you should go do what we think you should do. Is kind of what we're saying to you, like what you're getting a little bit is what I'm perceiving. And I think, while it's up to you to determine whether or not you think that's important, it's not really up to us. unless we feel like there's an action as a PROSAB board that we should take before we make any decisions that are like formalized about it in terms of like a vote. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
I lost
No.
you.
No, sorry.
I feel like we're telling you all, hey, you should go do this.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, thank you. Whether or not you do that is up to you. If we feel like engaging the community is important, that's kind of on us to do about this topic before we vote on it as a board. Like it's our job to go put that information out because they came to us and presented, and now we're considering supporting it as a board or not, like putting it up for a vote. So whatever you all do is what all you do, and you're getting advice from us. But ultimately, if we think it's important as a board, then it's on us to go say, hey, we're discussing this. This presentation was brought before us. Community, you should know about it before we take any voting decisions on it. Is kind of what I.
Yeah, I guess I know that Gavin is very committed to this. And I know that Gavin is gonna put the word out for the next PROSAB meeting. I probably won't. I am committed to this, but maybe more on the technical side than the community engagement side, mostly because I don't use social media at all and don't know any other way other than to talk to humans one at a time, which, you know, I do, but I don't run surveys. So, and because it really is just me and Gavin at this point, I think that's how it's going to shake out. But what we would really, I think, appreciate is if this is going to be on the next PROSAB agenda and you want the community to show up to that meeting, that you ask the community to show up to that meeting to give you input on your decision-making process, because that's what you want.
And I'd like to just say something real quick. So I think I think our biggest concern is putting out information that is incomplete, because if we put out stuff that is incomplete, like, I mean, basically everything that I present tonight's incomplete, right? There's no hard, you know, nothing's set. So we all know how the town works, and I 100% agree on transparency, and we are in no way, shape, or form are we trying to do anything that is like in the back room or like, you know, in a backhanded kind of way. We're not trying to do that at all. We totally know that transparency is the key to do it. I think we're trying to do things in a structured and strategic kind of way, which is why we came to PROSAB first. This is really our first public presentation of this. I mean, this is public, right? Anybody could have come to this. Obviously, it's not widely advertised and whatnot, but it is a public, you know, this is a public place. So obviously there's a lot that we need to work on. I think we're slightly concerned with putting out information like a mill levy and, you know, how much money this would bring in and what our expenses would be, like all that stuff, because people will get really into the weeds on that. We don't have answers, and we could be honest about that. We don't have answers for that, and we don't know when we will. And that's okay to answer a question with I don't know, because we don't know yet. My big I guess maybe question here is, you talk about wanting to feel like there is community support or not for this before PROSAB votes on it. My biggest question is, how do you figure that out? Like, how, you know, do I put a post on Netheads? Like, personally, I feel like Netheads is the worst of Nederland. It's not a bad way to share information, but are you basing that decision on whether PROSAB would support this or not based on like the tone of the comments on Netheads? Like, that's not a viable way of, especially the larger community who's not on Netheads. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah, but
so
I would
just
say
wanting to
it's
look
more of
like
like
a specific.
I would just say it's more of like a process thing, which is why, you know, government is supposed to be deliberative and these meetings are noticed and they're public and things like that, and just like not springing it on people so there's transparency to the process and that we are taking our time with it and giving it the consideration it deserves. I agree, Netheads is the worst, and half the people on it live in Gilpin and wouldn't even be in this district, so, and they'll be the ones commenting the loudest. So yeah, I'm open to other folks' ideas. I think what we're all basing this off of is the pump track, which did need engagement from both a conceptual, to Eric's point, it did need double engagement from a conceptual level before design was even completed, just on the thought of having a pump track in Chipeta Park. And then if that had passed, which it did not, we would have done further engagement regarding the specifics of the pump track. But we didn't. Where we're telling you is what we've learned is if you fail at that conceptual stage, you won't even get to the second stage. And there was completely inadequate public engagement done on the pump track, which directly contributed to its failure. So learn from our lessons, learn from our failures, or don't. But folks need to feel, because a lot of conspiracy theories came up because folks felt like it was done rightly or wrongly in back rooms and handshake deals, and they thought funding was coming from places it wasn't, on and on. So there's no easy answer, but that's what we've learned.
I think, like Alex put it well, like it's not, we're not trying to be frustrating or ask for things that
I love the idea.
You know, more work. And I think all of us, well, I can't speak for all of us. I can say, like, I think it's an amazing idea. I think it's more of like we've learned like the hard way that it's really, really important to make sure that there's public engagement from the get-go, even more important to do it when things are not yet set in stone, because this will be public, and someone could easily start just like spreading rumors and like whatever from it. And it's much better just to get the information out there. I think we saw with the childcare vote, there was active organizing and community engagement on that. And in the end, that's why that passed, I think, and also because it's a really great idea. But anyway, so like it may be like super frustrating, and I apologize for that. But like honestly, the only reason I raised it is because I think that this is a potentially amazing idea, and I want to see things succeed in this town. So
no, to be clear, like I'm not frustrated at all, and in no way was I trying to come and ask for like a letter of support right now, like I wanted tonight. Like, of course, like, nah, I know that there's a process to all of this, and so I think we would love the support of PROSAB, and we do have a plan, or developing a plan for public outreach, because this is bigger than the town of Nederland. And honestly, there's a lot more people outside of town that would vote on this than in town. And so we want to engage with all of those people, and we will, and we're, in the process of doing such things. And so I want that to be clear too, is that we want this to be a public thing and something that people are engaged in. I agree wholeheartly that I think the pump track was a good idea. I don't think it was executed in a great way, and so I think that I think we, anyone can think critically about that, I think would probably agree. And but so we don't want that to happen here. We don't want it to be derailed by a bunch of Nedhead conspiracy theories, because there's no conspiracy theory here about this. That's also why it's a community-led initiative. Like at the moment, it is largely Eric and I. We've talked to lots of people about it and gotten feedback and input, and we want to bring more people in to this. This is not really something that Eric and I could probably lift by ourselves, no matter how passionate we are about it. So we want to bring more people in, and we will. So this is really our first kind of stab at the public presentation, and I think I definitely have been writing stuff down and going to take a lot of what you said to into consideration, and we will continue to, or start to, reach out to people and to the town at large, and to the other communities that this involves. So
thank you both.
Public presentation is pretty darn good. So just for what it's worth, like, very informative.
We're way over time. I mean, I don't know where we landed on discussing this next time. I mean, Sam, maybe you can take the lead on talking to Eric and Gavin and see, like, if Eric, you seem to suggest this might go before the Board of Trustees before our next meeting, so obviously that would render it moot. So
well, no, we
happy
want
to engage further.
Do that.
What?
We want We want PROSAB to have the time to deliberate on this anyway.
Okay,
So.
okay, so,
And would I
so-
be, sorry,
go ahead.
well, Jonathan, and you may be able to answer this. Would there be like same kind of thing that we did with PROSAB here with the BOT, like an informational, like, this is what we're thinking, whether it's a formal presentation or not, before we ask the BOT to vote on it, right? There's a process.
We're not even.
So like.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna suggest.
We'd love a nod for.
Right, I think what could work is a discussion or information item. And I think what needs to happen from an engagement standpoint is like, where you're at in this plan right now is like, hey, that's what I'm just freaking frankly, like, that's kind of like what we're thinking with the Eldora project. It starts with, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, and then you say, here's how we could. And then you say, do you want to? That's really how the engagement should work on a project like this. And I think you guys have done a really good job from the, like engaging where you have already. And I think that if you come to the board with that presentation with that, wouldn't it be cool if kind of mindset? And then, like we had on the other project, we use those FAQs to really make sure we were thinking about like, what are people going to ask? What can we say? What is appropriate? And then you can develop that document. It takes a little bit of time, but if you can build, that's one of the things of social media. I don't think Netheads is bad necessarily. It's not anything other than a place where people talk. But like where you get into problems is if like it's like, okay, well, I talked to Sam and he talked to Jesse and he talked to like some kid on the street and they were saying that all the eggs in Nederland are gone. That's like where the problem comes. So like if you have like actual like setup of like information, you're saying, look, this is where we're at, and this is what we think and know right now, and like this is going to evolve, and please tell me, because that's really, and I'll just tell you from my perspective, working in government, what you need to do is when people are mad at you, you need to take a person loaded for, war and like come in, like, or what do you say, like loaded for bear basically, and turn that into a conversation, and that's what needs to happen. And it's not always comfortable. And like, I think that's where this succeeds or fails is if you say, if people hear, we're working, and then all of a sudden it's a full plan and you're voting, it just doesn't come across as real. And so it's really true asset-based community development style engagement. What you do is you say, look, we have all these strengths in our community. We have all these people who do all these really cool things, all these really cool places. Here's how we can start putting that together and build some capacity within our own place to manage all these different things. And I think they'll be very successful because I think you've got all the narrative you need. It's just about making sure that people see progression and evolution in the idea. And I think maybe I'm talking too much about how that could work, but I think if you were to come to the board, that would be the first step as a discussion information item. And then I think like in general, what your nod would likely be is, hey board, we want to continue looking at this. We understand there's impact on the town from this, and we want to make sure that we're collaborative, like you've said. Are you guys cool with continuing to look at this? And you say it in grown-up language, which is always good. But something like that.
I don't know. I feel like that language might actually be better.
Vibe check.
Yeah, and then you just like build the plan and you just execute it, because you do have if you're going to do this year, you have a pretty tight clock right now that you have your shot clocks running. So you're going to have to finish the service plan, and there's just things to do. So if you get that nod, then you can start, like, you want to have like, I don't know if there's a possibility to get like a cheap website or a free website where you can just host this information, but the more you could do that, the easier it is. And then you just need community advocates that understand, that can talk. And I think it's like about, don't ignore the cons. Don't ignore like when people say things like I'm scared that my job is going to I'm scared I'm going to get fired if this happens. That's like a thing that could happen. Well, you say, well, maybe you don't need to. We can do this differently. Yeah. Or I'm scared my house is worth less and I'm already struggling to survive. You could say, well, maybe we could come up with a progressive model for how we build these mill levies. Like there's a lot of different things, and maybe statements are okay, but you just gotta.
Sorry, we're way
yeah.
time on this.
Anyway, that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Okay. Were folks talking in there? I can't hear. Good. Okay.
CT just said that we were way over time, and I think we want to wrap up the meeting.
No, I know. That's what I was going to say. Caroline, can you give a PROSAB update next month, please? Sorry, we didn't get to it. And
Yeah.
that's why the agenda is really important, everyone, just to plug, to put things on the agenda. Okay. Thank you, Eric and Gavin, for your time. And
Thank you.
thanks everyone else for your time. Have a good evening. Drive safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye,
Bye.
Alex. Bye. Bye, Lindsay.
Oh, I didn't
Bye.
motion to adjourn. Oh no. Okay. Well.